please turn on your microphones and identify yourself by name before speaking or making a motion. In addition, I respectfully request that all trustees limit your questions and or comments to 3 minutes. And the way that I'm going to do that, or at least try to, is that if you'll get all of your comments and questions out, then we'll answer them so we're not doing back and forth. To ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak, I would like to make it a kind of a rule tonight that we recognize trustees that have not spoken yet on a particular item before calling on trustees for a second time. We're going to try it. We'll see how we get. And then we'll move forward. So the second item is recognitions, which we have none tonight. And then on the ethics statement, I have some more reading to do here. I want to remind you that it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearance of conflict. To comply with this statement, I asked whether any board member has a known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matter coming before the board today. Okay, hearing none. I don't have to read the last statement, okay? Now tonight we actually, we have public, we're moving on to number 4. We actually always try to provide for public comment, and tonight we have 3 people signed up. So just a reminder to the speakers that you have 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes to talk to us. At the conclusion of each speaker, we'll see if there's any additional people to talk. So, all right, so the first up tonight is Carson Cone, who I believe we've heard from before. So Carson, if you'll come on up, if you introduce yourself, and then we'll start your clock for 3 minutes.
Yeah, like you said, my name's Carson. Good evening, everyone. Later in my comments, I will discuss a fairly simple way I feel the board can actually help lower crime. But first, I want to give a couple shout outs. First to the Charlotte Urbanists and their volunteers for what seems to be at least hundreds of benches that they have made and donated at local bus stops. Also a shout out to CATS for their commitment to outreach to local homeless shelters and refugee organizations in an attempt to ensure that all riders are aware of the likely to come double fees for cash-paying transfer trips, as well as spreading such awareness too regarding alternatives for those riders to avoid double payments for those trips. I am still opposed to cash-paying riders having to pay double for transfers, but I momentarily given up on that cause. I do fear that not enough is being done and that bus drivers will unfortunately face backlash from riders not knowing of the new system's implementation. Brent, I appreciate your assurance that everyone will be made aware, but I recommend a grace period for riders with the new system, even after rollout. The tragic murder of CATS bus driver Ethan Rivera in 2022 and an assault that occurred on a driver of CATS within the past couple of months show that CATS bus drivers need the full support of the MPTA. I would also like to, in a moment, make a suggestion regarding bus stops. I think in society it is generally accepted that an active mind rather than an idle one is generally more conducive to a healthy mind. For those who may be religious, there's an old phrase which states, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. This is important for bus riders also because a person can sit at a bus stop for many minutes with nothing to occupy their mind. Many may not be able to afford a cell phone, and studies show that from the Department of Justice have shown a link between poverty and crime. I recommend the installation of little free libraries at bus stops, and particularly those that would have longer wait times. These would have books which could be obtained from the Charlotte Mech Library and allow riders to keep busy at the stop and on the bus. A number of these little free libraries already exist in the Charlotte area. There are those who may say that it is a bit bold and a bit bold of a move, and that the libraries will be abused, but boldness is necessary to tackle crime and make a more peaceful transit experience for all. Thank you.
Love that. That was great.
Thank you, Mr. Cone, as always. Next up, we have Mr. Alexander, Christopher Alexander. Mr. Alexander, are you with us? Okay, we'll move on. Next, we have Mr. Martin Wheeler. Mr. Wheeler, you'll come up and reintroduce yourself, and as well as you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the authority, others. I am Martin Wheeler, reside here in Charlotte. I am also the president of All Aboard Carolinas, which has been involved in advocacy for rail passenger service in the Carolinas for over 40 years. Charlotte is benefiting greatly from the NCDOT Rail Division aggressive program of improving and expanding train service between Charlotte and Raleigh. But Charlotte is the only stop on the line without an improved passenger rail terminal, still using the station opened in 1963 before Amtrak. The Charlotte Multimodal Transportation Center, otherwise known as Gateway Station, is still to be built, despite being proposed decades ago. This facility will not only benefit Amtrak, but will have integration with future light rail, the GO Line streetcar, local transit buses, and Greyhound intercity bus service. Current approach is to try to integrate the terminal into a public-private partnership development. We can't wait another decade for this approach to become a reality. The terminal needs to be decoupled from the P3 project and built by itself, or a temporary station should be built at 5th Street to enable rail passengers to benefit from the infrastructure that has already been there for a number of years. The 5th Street station would need additional investment to link the platforms to the temporary station. The project is currently under the supervision of the City of Charlotte, but as MPTA takes over Charlotte Area Transit's operations and planning activities, the authority should make a major effort and not hesitate to advance this much-needed community and regional asset. This concept was first introduced in 1980, and I'll just do a little bit of history here because I was involved in some of that. When Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Director Martin Crampton told this News Radio 93 reporter, the idea introduced in California was a good idea and we should study it here. Also in 1985, a contingent including Mike Snyderman of the Charlotte Uptown Development Corporation, local architect Richard Schulbe, myself, and a few others pitched the idea to the Charlotte Department of Transportation. And at that time, they told us that they were in the business of doing roads. It wasn't until the 1990s when Governor Jim Martin's Rail Passenger Task Force made the terminal part of its ongoing planning for the Raleigh to Charlotte corridor. So let's not delay the Gateway Station any longer and make sure it comes to fruition as soon as possible. Thank you.
That concludes the public comment section for us tonight. And we actually get to jump all the way down to number 7. So with number 7, what we're going to do is actually have our committee chairs give us brief reports. Yeah, and we'll just jump right into it. So, Mr. Curran, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pleasure for me to give an update on the Finance and Audit Committee. We have had 2 meetings, April 1st and April 13th, had quorums present at both meetings and have achieved a fair amount of business. A little more pressure on us because we had to move the budget forward, which we'll talk about a little bit more later in the agenda. But we have evaluated our calendar and our charter and finance policies and approved both of those for advancement to the Executive Committee and ultimately to this board for your consideration. We are asking some additional questions as it relates to the procurement policy and expect to address those at our next meeting. We've spent a fair amount of time talking about our banking relationships so that we are properly set up to collect our money and ultimately disperse it. I think you all will recall that we're working with an agreement with the city so that they will continue to handle the receipts. Effective July 1st, we will start to receive the tax collections. We'll immediately move those to the city to continue to handle because they have the systems, the internal controls, all the necessary processes for control of those funds and for appropriate appropriation. We're shooting towards January 1st, where we will then be able to step into the shoes of receiving those monies directly and have all of our systems set up. And I know we'll hear later from our folks that are helping us with the transitions who are actively engaged with that with our outside consulting firm. Let's see. We also had presentations from Ms. Campbell and Ms. Flowers around payback tracing and statuses around some of those things, requirements, and I know they will talk about those as well. We also intend over the next few committee meetings and months to engage with each of the other committees to learn more about what is going on there in anticipation of preparing budgeting for the next fiscal year, because that starts in literally just a few months' time. And I think that's about it. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have. Thank you.
You just gave the first committee report of MPTA.
Good. And no questions, so.
So the second one will be given by Julie. Julie, you want to tell us what Operations Safety Committee is?
Sure, happy to do that, Mr. Chair. So the Operations and Safety Committee met on March 31st. That's been our first meeting. We'll have another one next week. We did have a quorum. We received a staff report from, excuse me, from Mr. Cagle, in which he introduced Deborah Campbell and Carolyn Flowers as our transition co-directors. And he discussed a little bit about how they were still working with CATS to finalize the contract with EY to provide the transition management work. Mr. Cagle also went into a little bit of detail on the Federal Transit Administration Safety Plan audit. That was a specific document that is required under the federal guidelines and is required for all agencies. The FTA announced their audit late last year and made recommendations, and CATS has accepted all those recommendations, including a timeline for taking corrective actions, and I'll mention a little bit of that in just a moment. Under business items, we did talk about our charter as well. The draft of the charter, we had some comments on that we would like to see included and recognize that our charter needs to be consistent with the other committee charters. But a couple of the things that were brought up were a request to hold public comment in committee. And we did talk about that at the executive committee agenda, and everybody agreed that we would want to have the opportunity for people to have public comment at the committee level. Let's see, Ms. Flowers discussed that the importance of having some accountability, reporting to the Operations and Safety Committee, and that it was important that planning for service was integrated with operations, not just in the Planning Committee, and that there was the possibility of should be a possibility of looking at service standards and providing input and ensuring that the Operations and Safety Committee has the ability to improve standards for implementation. Sorry. We also stated that we would like the charter to include language to state that one of the goals of our committee would be that the plan was implemented and that we get reporting back on the implementation of the plan. Mr. Lindsay commented that he would like to ensure that service delivery was focused on meeting the needs of the rider, as he believed and others agreed that operations would include service delivery. And Mr. Shore said that he wanted the charter to clearly state that the MPTA operated under principles of equity and accessibility, in particular as it pertains to disabled passengers, as well as those living in parts of town that don't have easy access to public transportation. And we will get, I believe, a draft back on the charter that would include those things. We approved, just make sure we have everything on that, yes. We approved our committee calendar. Our meetings will be held on the last Wednesday of each month at 9 a.m. so that others can join us if they so wish. And then Mr. Longo said that in committee, he wants members to be able to bring anything to the full board, so it doesn't necessarily just have to go through the executive committee. We then received an update from Eric Osnes, from our CATS Chief Safety and Security Officer. He went into a little bit more detail on the security strategy and integrated security and public safety plan, including professional security services and CMPD and the Sheriff's Office and CATS community partners, all of those that serve as security personnel for the system. And he discussed the emergency management, quality assurance, and policy priorities. The full integrated security and public safety plan for those interested is available in full on the March 31st, 2026 MPTA committee meeting packet for the Operations and Safety Committee. And then he went in and discussed the safety audit that I referred to, that Mr. Cagle also referred to. On February 2nd, February 2nd of this year, the FTA issued its focused agency safety plan audit final report, and CATS submitted their response to the FTA on February 27, 2026. Mr. Osnes said that on March 16th, CATS received the FTA's response to its CATS corrective action plan and prepared corrective action tracking matrix that incorporates the FTA's feedback on each proposed action. And I do want to clarify here, because we asked the question, that the recommendations from the FTA are recommendations only. They are not required. So, and we do expect then that we will be getting updates on the matrix to see that that CATS is meeting those benchmarks. In other business, Mr. Pruitt brought up the fact that the future of the Public Transit Advisory Committee, PTAC, which is now currently under the MTC, would need to be rolled into the MPTA. And so that their staff is going to work on that, make sure that that happens. And we also discussed the interest amongst board members to have tours of CATS facilities and have trustees riding CATS, varied transit services, including microtransit. And again, our next committee meeting will be on March 22nd at 9 a.m. Excuse me, April 22nd at 9 a.m.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Julie. And we'll go to our last committee report, and that is the Planning and Capital Project Delivery Committee.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to share. Today was our first meeting. We held it at 3 p.m. And so these notes are really, really raw and off the press. So we were able to get grounded today and definitely establish some clarity around our role. We did have a quorum. And some of the agenda items that we discussed were our committee charter, and we had some discussions similar to the other committees around the need for a public comment, and I'll come back to that, as well as clarity on some language around where it says where we oversee, again, striking that balance between our role of governance versus management. And so we wanted to bring back some language to provide some clarity around that. Some of the other things we talked about was our procurement policy. I think we want to make sure that we're thinking about being inclusive as we're developing these projects moving forward. Also, some language around being explicit about thinking about anti-displacement in terms of land acquisition, what that policy may look like. And then also some emphasis on partnerships and development opportunities along the transit lines. I think we wanted to include that in our scope in our charter as well. We did adopt a calendar. Again, our meetings will be the same day as our regularly scheduled board meetings at 3 p.m. the same day. And our next meeting is May 13th. We also received a Better Bus update and policy framework from staff. And it's pretty much the same presentation that we received during our workshops, really establishing or sharing some of the quick wins with the Better Bus plan while keeping our eyes on the long-term projects as well, but also thinking about how do we make sure that we can deliver on things. I think staff is definitely working on a project tracker. I think we're all interested in seeing the transparency around what are our projects and how are we delivering those, what's, and the timeline around that. So they have a draft of I think a beta version of a tracker that we'll all benefit from as we continue with our work. And then we talked a little bit about engagement around the Silver Line, some of those engagement opportunities that we have to make sure that, one, we are sharing those with our network to support staff in their efforts to get more people engaged as the project progresses. And we had an unofficial public comment session. Some would call it a spicy session. But I think the importance of the comments that we heard, for me, and I think the other members of the committee appreciate the reality and grounding of how important this work is, that we can't take this assignment lightly, and that there were commitments and promises made to our community. And so as often as we can hear that, it grounds us in our charge and how we have to be focused and not be distracted in what our mission and our focus is as a committee and as a board. So I appreciate, and the board and our committee definitely appreciated the unofficial comments. So we're looking forward to continuing to have that opportunity for the community to share their thoughts, their concerns, and their values in future meetings. So we were happy to have that. Although unplanned, it was necessary. And so again, our next meeting is May 13th at 3 p.m. And that yields my report.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate you. Yeah, everybody else got a hand. Give her a hand. All right, so the only other thing under committees is that please note in your packet, you actually have the written report from the Public Transit Advisory Committee, PTAC. As Julie shared, they will become part of who we are. We're working through the procedures on how that will happen here soon. All right, so moving on to item number 8, which is the consent agenda. There's nothing really controversial other than minutes under this one, but if you want to pull one, let me know now. If not, we're going to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items all as one. Anybody want to pull the minutes from any meeting? All right, can I get a
Move to
motion?
approve.
Moved by Ned, second by Justin, that we move the consent agenda. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All the same sign, that motion carries. I'm getting right through this, so we're already down to number 10. Number 10 are the actual action items that we need to discuss, and you heard Ned talk about the one thing that we have on the agenda. So I'm going to turn it over to him so he can walk us through what we're doing with the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to set the framework, we've talked about this in the past. It's a rather unusual year in that the budget that the Finance and Audit Committee considered and the Executive Committee considered for advancing to the entire board will be approved by 3 different bodies. Very unusual in that regard. The MTC, us, and the City of Charlotte. While that is an unusual circumstance, the budget itself is consistent with past budgets, although it is reflective of increased revenues related to our portion of the additional 1% sales tax. So I'll just run through a little bit of background before I'll offer a motion for approval of the budget for advancement to the City of Charlotte. I hope all of you will recall that on March 24th, we had a presentation of the budget. And then on April 1st, as I mentioned earlier, the Finance and Audit Committee considered the budget, had an opportunity to review it in detail, ask questions, and then unanimously approved advancing it to the Executive Committee. On April 8th, the Executive Committee likewise had the same opportunity to review the budget and ask questions, and voted to advance it to this board this evening for our consideration collectively. And then on the 13th, earlier this week, Reverend Mack and I attended the presentation by our interim CEO to the City of Charlotte at their regular budget session, which included lots of questions from the City Council, good thorough questions.
2 hours.
and Brent did a very capable job of answering all the questions to their satisfaction. Key elements of the budget is moving people forward by strengthening core operations, improving safety, expanding service, and investing in long-term infrastructure. A strategic focus in three key areas: people, assets, and safety, and it ensures the system we operate today remains reliable while laying the groundwork for tomorrow's regional mobility network. Important to note that the safety investments includes major investments in customer safety and adds $10 million for continued CMPD off-duty support, expanded security staffing, dispatch capacity, fare inspectors, ambassadors, and upgraded technology, including surveillance systems. The state of good repair, which is federal requirements and standards, we continue to improve our reliability and condition of our system with $7 million increase in the state of good repair budget, and that supports rail, bus, and facility maintenance. Significant service improvements, including 30,500 new bus service hours, 15-minute weekday service on routes 5, 7, 16, and 21, more express trips, and upgraded bus stops. Microtransit expands into 2 new zones with extended service hours and complements strong performance to date. STS growth is supported with additional resources to meet the rising demand. We have major capital program, multi-year program advances, major strategic projects, including the purchase and maintenance of a number of buses, paratransit, rail vehicles, safety and security enhancements. 30% design and environmental work for both the Red Line and the first segment of the Silver Line, construction of the new South End Station that we've all heard so much about, development of the Hambright Park and Ride, and modernization of CAT's technology infrastructure to support future authority operations. This budget strengthens daily service, enhances rider experience and safety, and moves forward the major capital initiatives needed to build a more connected, more equitable, and more resilient regional mobility system. Key elements of the budget: no fare increase, improves safety, increases bus service, expands microtransit, advances rail corridor work, and invests in asset maintenance. The next steps: on April 22nd, the CAT's preliminary budget will be presented to the Metropolitan Transit Commission for review and approval. On April 30th, the budget will be submitted to the city for inclusion in their strategic operating plan, with the city and the MPTA adopting the budget separately in June following public hearings. So this evening, we're going to take up an action to advance the budget to the city of Charlotte. If you look in your packet behind the tab that says fiscal 2027 budget, you'll see an MPTA resolution numbered 2026-06. I will read it, so it's read into the record, and I will offer it as a motion, and I will then seek a second, and the chair, you can then ask for comments.
You have to read the whole thing.
Do I have? It's up to you. It's your.
Just go for it. If they staff say you need to, I guess we do.
I mean,
We need to.
does anyone want me to read it, or can we incorporate it? Okay, I will seek a motion to incorporate it into the record as drafted, and seek a second.
Well, Brad said that we don't have to, so it's been moved by Ned and seconded by the vice chair, Mr. Justin Harlow. Yeah, open for question first, and I don't have Christie, so Emily, will you help me keep the hands, please? So who's first? So Reverend Mack, who else? Cameron, Anthony, and then and Clayton. Okay, Reverend Mack.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to be part of the finance team, but I wanted to ensure that we added to safety investments, not just customer service, which is very important and one of our primary goals, but also employee safety. Although there's an example here, I think that language is important. Our operators are as important as anyone else. In fact, we know since 2020, during COVID, they became the essential workers. And so I want to make sure that we are putting language in here that provides at least some level of safety for all employees of MPTA. In addition to that, I am interested in ensuring that we are paying all employees a living wage. Thank you.
Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. You're talking about adding language to the resolution.
Yes, add employees or operators in terms of safety, investments in operator safety as well as customer safety. That language is not there.
Any place in particular in that whereas or the therefore?
It says the budget includes major investments in customer safety, but it does not say employee safety.
Where does Brent think it would best fit?
Yeah, that's what I guess I'm.
She's referring to page 36.
Back on page 36, of what Ned just wrote. What Ned just read, I'm so sorry, everyone, please forgive me. I'm
what
back
we're-
at where Ned,
Yeah, but we're in the resolution now, so the motion is on the resolution, so I don't think anybody's disagreeing with you on adding it to the resolution. We just need to know where it goes in the
okay,
resolution, and
let
I'm
me
gonna,
go to the resolution.
well, Britt's doing it, if you give him 1
Oh,
second.
thank you, Brett.
So the resolution doesn't specifically address any of the specific areas of the budget. It just states the budget. And there's no disagreement, Reverend Mack. All of our budget and our security focus and safety focus is on operators and all employees of CATS, as well as our customers. And so the resolution does not state. So what you're referring to on page 26 is a summary of the items in the budget, but the resolution just states that the budget. It doesn't have a summary of the items in the budget, so.
So Brent, when you're, assuming that this is approved this evening and it goes before the city council, you presented to their work group, will you present again to the city for formal adoption?
Yes, and it will also, there will need to be formal adoption by this body, and so we can certainly incorporate that into the formal adoption by this body for the budget.
Thank you, I appreciate
Understood.
that.
So we're not messing with the resolution, we're gonna make sure it comes back to the budget.
Okay.
All right, so who was next, Emily?
Thank you. I know this is a,
Thank you. I miss Chris.
I know this is a delicate process with 3 groups, right, passing it along, and so I just want to uplift this. It's come up in planning, it came up at city council, I've heard MPTA discuss it, we've discussed it. The speed and number of bus shelters that we're installing. I would
Yeah.
really like to see a budget where how much that cost, what is the trade-off to increase the speed? Do we need to hire more contractors? Do we need to spend more money buying right-of-way faster? What would that look like? Because it's been something that's come up in almost every meeting I've been in, and I would guess that if you put that vote to city council, MTC, and to this body, we would probably vote for it. And so I really would like to see a budget that reflects that priority. I know staff have heard it and they may get tired of hearing of it at this point, but we've talked about how this is a tangible thing our community can see and deliver on this promise early and faster. 100 shelters or 150 shelters doesn't feel like a dramatic change and something we can do. Even ordering new buses takes 18 months, right, for implementing faster routes. And so I would just like to uplift that. And then I would also just want to echo some of the city council folks who are talking about the importance of sustainability goals and their strategic energy action plan. I hope that we're able to collaborate with them and coordinate towards those goals as we move forward. Thank you.
So just to be clear, you're not asking for us to modify it, but you're saying
No,
that
no,
to
I'm
the
not gonna
extent,
slow us
to the
down.
extent that we're able to
No, yeah,
accelerate
yep.
the implementation of
providing
additional,
comment.
which was brought up at the city council, I think we all understand and appreciate that. You spent a great deal of time with the city council describing that.
The message is heard from all groups. I will point out that 100 may not sound like a lot, but it is at least a 3X increase of what we have been doing in the last few years. Mr. Jayoba is in the audience. So on April 27th, we anticipate bringing to City Council a program management contract, both with H.W. Lochner and HNTB. That is a task order-based contract. Once that contract is approved, we will be working with the contracted consultants to look at the bus shelter program for 2 specific items. One, to identify how we can optimize the program and go faster. And 2, how we can capitalize on the program to support small business contracting in that specific scope of work with bus shelters. So again, we will not get to 100 shelters and say our work is done. We will continue to push hard to do even more shelters because we understand the desire, and I can assure you, our desire is the same, to bring forward as many shelters as we possibly can, as fast as we possibly can.
And I'll add one thing. Brendan and I have been talking a lot about kind of some of these things. I think part of his report going forward would be how many shelters we're actually doing, because we're not waiting to the budget. They're doing shelters now. In fact, we talked about starting some type of dashboard or map or something so you can see as they start to happen. So you can actually go back when you're talking to people and say, it's going on. So just FYI. So I got Julie added.
Bus shelters.
Okay, and I have T. Anthony Lindsay, then Clayton Seeley,
So,
Julie, and then,
On this on
and
bus
Bob.
shelters.
This is just on bus shelters.
I'm on
Well-
shelter also, we're both on shelters.
If I start doing that, we'll never get through it. So
I will yield back my time.
all of it? I'm just, okay. Who was next?
and I have Mr. Seeley.
Clayton.
Mine was about bus shelters, and to reiterate that, but also just to get an idea around, and I brought this up in the planning meeting, I see lots of expenditures reflected around the 30,500 new hours of bus service, but what I haven't found in this is the human resources aspect of that with the bus operators, and I looked all through this budget and was just curious where that falls in the budget.
So that is an interesting question, and it has an interesting answer. It is in the budget, but you do not see those positions listed as FTEs because all of our bus operators work for a independent organization called Transit Management of Charlotte. So the dollars are in there to pay TMOC to hire the operators. But the operators as FTEs are not projected in our FTE count. So I can get you an exact answer to how many FTE TMOC anticipates to hire for the 30,000 hours.
Thank you.
Yes.
Who's next?
I have Julie, Bob, and then Corinne Mack.
And then Peter and Lucille. Did I see your hand?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We were doing good. We already the number whatever. Let's keep going. Let's not slow down, because we actually have seen this before, y'all. Remember, it's not the first time. So Julie?
Well, and that's why I want to mention it, to make sure that we haven't baked in the bus plan with this company that will be planning the construction of those bus shelters, because I think there's opportunity for the MPTA to state their will in terms of what we'd like to see happen with that program. I think a great opportunity with the bus shelter program is to involve the arts community. And I'd love to see us be able to do that before this is a done deal and the project is signed in stone.
So we do have a bus shelter standard as a policy. We have bus shelters ready to go. We certainly can, we will take direction from the MPTA, but at some point, we have to balance speed with other things. And so we're certainly happy to have that discussion, and we look forward to the input from the MPTA. There are more than 2,000 shelters, so I do feel confident that we will have opportunities to increase the number of shelters while also being creative as we go through the process.
And just so we don't get way off, Julie, because I think you're right. The city actually has this arts program, this 1% or something.
That is we do have a 1% art and transit policy, and we do have art incorporated into the bus shelters as well. Some of our early shelters did not have the art incorporated in the windscreen, but you'll see them rolling out, yes.
Well, what I was trying to say is that at some point, we need our own policy. But I mean, for the time being, because the city's
Right.
part of this one, it's that awkward year. I mean, the city's policy will kick in because it's a city budget too. But you're right, we need to add that to a list of policies.
And know
that
what
we
it
need.
is.
Well, that part.
Yeah.
But we need to adopt our own, I think is the point that probably comes out at the loudest.
Yes, the NTC has a current policy, 1% art in transit, and the MPTA will have to adopt a policy as well.
That's all I'm saying. We need to do our own policy, but we should add that to the list, who's ever keeping up with the list.
Yes,
All
it's
right,
on the
so who's
list.
next?
I have Bob Menzel.
Who?
Bob.
Bob?
Hi, Bob Benzel. Just want to echo what you've heard, not that you need to hear it again, but this issue of shelters, it needs to get prioritized, expedited now, not later. We just have to find a way to get it done. Think outside of the box. We talked to Bruce today, said, be bold, ask for more than what you need, or what you think you can get, rather. We heard it loud and clear today in our committee from public comment, and I think a lot of us were already concerned about it before we got there. With that said, I'm curious about the revenue number here. It says that we are looking at a variance of $49.4 million in the current budget, but it would seem to me that the sales tax revenue is going to be considerably more than that amount. I'm wondering if you can explain how you got to that number.
Chad?
Mr. Howe?
Chad wants to go to speak microphone.
So what I can speak to is our full revenue number. So when you say there was a $49 million variance, that was assuming that, if I remember correctly, that was almost exactly the number we had anticipated if we did not receive the first quarter of the sales tax, of the new sales tax for FY27. So in other words, not when it would not have been levied until a later date. With it being levied 7/1, within FY27, we will receive the full approximately $200 million.
So are you saying that what is in here actually really needs to be revised based on revenues coming in sooner than originally projected?
No, this includes the full year at $200 million. So, could you help me
Point
on
us to the schedule that you were looking at?
Page 49
In the presentation?
in the budget summary.
What page?
49.
49. It's right there.
Nice job of balancing the budget, though, Chad. Really, it's right to the penny.
So that the 49, on page 49, 49.4 is just simply the differential. It's that much of an increase over last year, just strictly for the operating budget. So in other words, we parse our revenue stream into that it funds the operating, it funds the capital, and it funds debt service. So with the new revenue stream coming in, it's $264.7 million was our operating budget this year.
Right.
We're projecting it to be 314.1. So that was coincidental that was a quarter's worth. That was a coincidental
That
number.
schedule is just simply saying
Yeah,
that
it's
the
just the operating budget.
is increasing by $49.4 million year over year.
The word variance is getting you, Bob.
Yeah, and so what it's saying on the revenue side, but if you look at the next page, page 51,
Right.
that is the expenditure side, and the $49.4 million is the variance as well.
Right.
And so what it's really saying is, on a revenue basis and an expenditure basis, the operating budget is increasing by $49.4 million year over year.
And said another way, what we're really saying here is that these numbers are not actually the total revenue that'll be received by the authority and passed to the city of Charlotte. This is actually just what is needed to sit there and meet the expense side of the budget. There's actually additional revenue.
Yeah, so this is the revenue needed to balance or cover the total cost of operating expenditures. Other expenditures would be things like capital expenditures, debt service. Those are the two primary ones. And so those two schedules working together, they sort of go hand in hand. If you have a $49.4 million variance of expenditures, you will have a $49.4 million variance of
Makes sense.
revenues, but this is only the operating side, one of the three primary areas of the budget.
Our total all-in revenues, so from
Yes.
all sources across all funds, is $572 million.
Variance could just be the difference between years.
Right.
You
The
and I
variance is
think
just the
variances
difference
in terms
between
of
the two.
Right.
something on a line item relative, within the budget year. This is not that.
So that's helpful. That's what the anticipated full
Yeah.
revenue stream will look like for '27.
Yeah, so that's the full year of the Article 34 sales tax, right? That's the full year of that, plus our existing 34, plus the You Drive It, plus all the grants, all the different revenue sources, fares.
So round numbers, we're looking at about 2/3 is going to operating and the other third is going to debt service and CapEx.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
And there is some going into the reserve account.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So again, it's a balanced budget, but it also has a balance of revenues that go into the reserve account. And again, that is important to build reserves as we think about the future where we will be issuing large amounts of debt. And so those cash. So not only is it balanced, there is a surplus at the end that goes into the cash account. It is not lost. It stays with the MPTA, and it's available for future use.
And so if we, as an authority, decided we wanted to invest some additional funds, for instance, into bus shelters, we have a reserve that, if this body was so inclined, could allocate a certain amount of those reserves to expedite this entire shelter program.
Yeah, I guess, so I will reiterate, we have heard loud and clear the desire to expedite the shelters.
Leave it at that, Mike.
And we will bring back to this body a plan to do that with the cost of it.
It'd be interesting if you would answer his question, though, about the use of reserves for that.
Yes, you can use your reserves for any legal use. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Everybody.
I have
Wait a minute. So the one thing I want to, so we're going to get through this, and maybe we need to do 3 minutes, because I thought we'd seen this 4 times, so, or do we have a lot more? Because if so, I'm going to start enforcing 3 minutes, just so we can get done with this.
I have Reverend Mack, but Mr. Pappas hasn't spoken yet.
You know, just 2 quick questions. What do one of these shelters cost?
What does the shelter cost?
Yes, sir.
That is highly dependent. It's not the cost of the shelter or installing the shelter. What usually takes time is the right-of-way and property acquisition. And separately from that, if it's not ADA accessible, i.e. it does not have a sidewalk or proper sidewalks to it, you also have to factor in that. And so the shelter itself is a fairly de minimis cost. It's the process to be able to put the shelter at the curb.
I can imagine it is, but what is the cost of one?
Ms. Goforth, do you know the cost of a shelter?
Yeah, this question came up earlier in the planning committee as well, and the cost of the shelter, I believe, is around 10 to 15,000. But as Mr. Cagle mentioned, it's the site work that really increases the right-of-way acquisition and the site work to place the pad that increases the cost. So there's a range depending on the complexity of the stop. So we can follow up and provide that information and give you a range of an idea of what per stop that cost has been in the past.
And what is the typical process to replace these? Is it a bid process, or how does it normally work?
It is a procurement process, and it varies, but yes, it can be a bid process, but it also could be an RFP process. It depends on how we're doing it. But yes, it is a typical procurement process.
I wonder if there's a way to, maybe modify the process to some kind of like design-build approach where you could create an incentive for that contractor, if you're doing enough of these, to do them quicker and maybe get some economies of scale.
Yes, and there probably are, and that's, as I said, that's our intent, is to ask that question and to evaluate options, and then to weigh the pros and cons. With a larger contract design build, it may create less opportunities for small business. And so we need to first evaluate the program, come back to the MPTA with strategies, and it may not be all or nothing. It may be a little of both. But again, that's the purpose of trying to evaluate how we optimize the program. And you are correct, utilizing alternative methods could speed the process.
I would think if you include the small business participation, though, that would be adhered to, and I don't know why it would exclude it, if that's, if that's an initiative of the process. So, why don't we just include that, and why don't we put together something here to move this along? Because about 10 people ask about this every meeting. They have an excellent point. It's needed sooner rather than later. So maybe we ought to change the process to get it done sooner.
We can evaluate that.
Be good to do that.
All right, Reverend Mack.
I really hate to beat a dead horse, but I'm back at the shelters. As you remember, in the city council meeting, the city council was very clear about the fact they wanted to have uniform shelters. If one had kiosks, the other would have a kiosk, and so on. And we all understand that each shelter may look different based on the work that's needed. But I just wanted to remind everyone who may not have been at that meeting that Ned and I attended, that the city council was very clear about the fact they wanted to have uniform shelters. And I want to go back to the operators also, because if the operators are coming from a different entity, a different organization, a different process, and are they subject to the same policies and rules of CATS, which now would be MPTA, or is this something different?
No, they're subject to the policies and rules of transit management of Charlotte.
Okay, thank you.
I have Lucia.
Ms. Griffin?
Only one brief one. We asked the same question at our committee meeting to get an idea of scale of expense. And, the cost of the cover was $10,000 to $13,000. And we said, okay, if the base costs you more than that, you go to $30,000 per shelter. $30 million allows you to do 1,000 shelters. So just to give us a perspective of how much we can do, or how much we want to do, or how much we should do, I'm with everybody else on that concern of expediting. And standardizing, to Peter's point, we can simplify the process with these consultants that are coming on, but I think giving the direction to them that is mandatory that we have a large number accomplished as results of their study, and not just a study for the study's sake.
Very good. Very
That's
good.
it.
So I'm gonna try, because, we spent 20 minutes on this, and Brent told us 3 times he heard us. And he told us that they were hiring a consultant firm to help us figure out how to do everything everybody said. And I want to make sure that we don't stay in this rabbit hole too long, because we still have some presentations we need to do. So I actually have Anthony next, but I think I want to just make sure before we spend 20 more minutes on this, he told us he heard us. And in the scheme of what we got to do, this is just one of those things. I know we all want the public to see that we're serious. I get it. I've heard it from everybody. We want them to know that we're spending the money and they start to see some results. But let's give them a chance to actually come back to us with some feedback on what everybody said. So with that being said, so.
Chairman, I think we had a timeline of when we're coming back. I think that would eliminate a lot of these questions, just as a suggestion. When can you come back and have that plan? I think it would eliminate a lot of the discussion.
They're hearing this for the first time tonight. So, really, he said it, he heard us. So Anthony, I have you next, and then Bob, I have you.
I have Alicia, too.
Oh, Lisa, I didn't see you over there. I'm sorry. Was she next?
No, T. Anthony was, and then Alicia.
Okay.
So I'm on a different line. I'm on a different line of questioning here. I think we made a point on the shelters. So I had 2 general questions. One, does the city of Charlotte contribute any additional funding to CATS beyond the sales tax revenues that are collected?
Yes, it's not.
Like in 2026, did they?
No.
Yes.
They did.
Oh, they did. Shut up, Dan.
Yes.
So
In 2026, yes.
Yes.
In the current fiscal year, yes. That is what we refer to as maintenance of effort.
okay, so where does that line item?
2027, it is not reflected because the city of Charlotte will no longer contribute that. However, the You Drive It tax, you'll see as a line item, that is a replacement in effect of the maintenance of effort from the current fiscal year. In addition, the city contributes approximately $5 million for the operations of the gold line, and that is reflected in the 2027 budget.
The 5 million will still come.
It's approximately, it's not exactly 5, but I believe it's 5.5.
It's a little more, a little bit
Give or
more.
take.
Yeah, it is reflected in the 27 budget, yes.
The largest single amount is called maintenance of effort,
Right.
and that is no longer viewed as maintenance of effort after July 1st, but that's why You Drive It shows up after July 1st.
So the You Drive It is a tax that's collected? That's what
It is, that is correct.
Okay. And the variance between what we got previous year in 26, is that $7,000 just showing on page 49, that variance there? Chad, that's the difference?
That's the difference between the revenue and expenses for just the operating fund, yes.
Okay. The other item that you said is reflected in the 27, for the goal line, where would I find that in the revenue sources?
If you look on, let me tie it back to the book you have in front of you. 1 second.
Yeah, this one is be page 49 in this book, I
It
think.
is page 24. No, I'm sorry, it's page 66.
Page 66.
It says Appendix 4 at the top, operating budget continued. Actually, hold on, that's the
okay.
operating side. Hold on 1 second. Yeah,
That's what I was looking for.
yeah, hold on, let me find the revenue side.
We can catch offline, but I just wanted to understand, because I could see that there was a significant difference between tax revenue collected and grants in 26 that I did not see in 27, and I'm just trying to figure out the sources of that delta.
If you look on page
65.
65.
Almost there, 65, yes. Page 65.
Towards the bottom, under operating assistance, the middle line says City of Charlotte Gold Line.
Okay. So that number.
I believe that is it. Is that it?
That's it, about 9 million, yeah. With
It
the
goes up to
the
9.
updated numbers, all-in numbers, about 9 million.
Okay. That's what I was trying to understand. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a motion on the table. Is there anybody else?
Not going to revisit the, and by the way, Bruce Jones did a outstanding job of explaining Better Bus to us today in the committee meeting, and so I definitely want to call him out for affirmation in the work that he's doing. I just wanted to point out, I know that all of the CATS leadership team knows this, but for the benefit of all of the trustees, there's we learned today there's actually 2 types of sites for these shelters. They are called either simple or complex. And I guess what I would just encourage CATS to do to help expedite is if you focus in on the simple sites, you don't have all of the right-of-way issues that you have to deal with on the complex sites. That might be a tactical way of trying to move the process forward a little bit faster. Thank you. And I appreciate your
agree.
indulgence, Mr. Chair.
I would also add, the MTC has a bus stop improvement policy
We're going to review.
that dictates, how we order improvements. That is an MTC policy. It is not an MPTA policy, but we would strongly recommend the MPTA to start looking at that policy and then recommend changes as this body deems fit so that we have that policy to guide our future actions.
With the understanding that the policy the MTC has is part of how their capital planning has been done. So whatever we do, I would hope we're not going to stop what they already have in the hopper, or at least whoever gets there, because it'll go to planning, I guess, that we really think through kind of.
Can you share it with all of us?
So we got a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion to advance, she told me she was okay. All in favor of the motion of advancing this to the city council, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All the same sign is carried. I have such great news on following up on this. because we need to set a public hearing for the budget, because we're doing the budget process this year, we need to call a special meeting of this body. And I know you guys are so excited about having another meeting this month, but we need to call a meeting to actually set a public hearing date, and we have to do it in person. So right now, what we're looking at is April the 28th at 6:30. April the 28th at 6:30, you'll get a notice from me setting a special meeting for this purpose of setting a public hearing for the budget. We need to kind of do notice and give time, and so that gives us time at 6:30. All right? Everybody hearing me on that? April the 28th, that is a Tuesday at 6:30. Wow, that
Will we
went,
be doing it here, or do you know? have
it's
you figured
here.
out?
We've already
In this
reserved the
room?
room,
I
yes.
mean, Okay.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know whether or not we would be in Governor Center or
No.
not for a public hearing.
Wow, that went easier than I thought. I thought y'all were gonna fuss at me. Okay, all right, let's keep going. All right, so next thing is actually report out. So next up, the staff came up with a new way to say CEO report. They're calling it transit report. So that is still you, Brent, so I'll give it to you.
That is.
That's what that is.
Okay. So just as a reference, this is something that we routinely provide to the MTC, and we will routinely provide to the MPTA. On a monthly basis, we provide updates on some of our key statistics. These are not all of the statistics, but these are some of the key statistics. So this is from February 2026. Normally, these statistics will be 1 month in arrears when we're reporting them, but this one is 2 months just due to the timing of producing the statistics and the timing of this meeting. But normally, they will be 1 month lagging. So in February 2026, there were 5 reportable events. 3 events involved vehicular collisions, with 1 resulting in 2 minor injuries to passengers. 1 event involved the evacuation of a bus when a passenger's electric scooter battery began emitting smoke. No fire occurred and no injuries were reported. We had 1 assault incident occurring on a bus against a bus operator. The bus operator sustained minor injuries and the individual fled the scene. In paratransit, there were no reportable incidents, and in rail, there were no reportable incidents. We also report frequently on performance metrics. Those 2 key performance metrics are on-time performance as well as missed trips. In your packet, so on-time performance, the standard that we would like to have as a minimum standard or that is maintained is 85%. And just as a little history, over the last 3 or 4 years, OTP was very difficult. We were usually hitting somewhere in the 78 to 80% range. Over the last 6 to 8 months, over the last year, we have made changes and continue to make improvements, both working with our operators to understand what are the factors affecting negative OTP, as well as with our routes and internally. And we are now happy to say that we are consistently hitting at or above the 85% OTP measure on bus. It was good. That is a good thing. I will also note that in the reports, you have a chart that shows you 12 months of OTP. And the other thing to note on OTP is for transit, on time is on time. It is not early, it is not late. So we monitor both early arrivals and late arrivals and measures those against on-time performance. The next chart you have is missed trips. Again, I will say back in 2022, we were experiencing very high missed trips in the 10% range. Our goal is to keep missed trips to as close to zero as possible. We are now bringing it down routinely in the 0 to 2% range. February of 2026 was 2.81%. February was a tough month for OTP for a couple reasons. The main reason is weather. And so that did affect our on-time performance as we had some very severe weather days. But we are also proud that missed trips has come under control and is significantly improved to where it was over the last 4 to 5 years. The last report that you have is the sales tax receipts. So you can see the sales tax receipts come in slowly or in arrears. And so you can see where we stand for sales tax receipts, both on an actual basis and where we stand on a forecasted basis. Our sales tax receipts are coming in less than budget, but we have been monitoring that and we're taking the actions we need to do in the current fiscal year. So we do not anticipate the need to reduce any services for that, but we are watching that, and clearly that sales tax receipts number factors into our projections for next year. That is the conclusion of my report.
So just so you know, and if you have questions, please let me know, but going forward, Brent's going to be doing a more detailed report for the Operating Safety Committee. We'll get some briefer high level, Executive Committee will get a briefer high level, but just to make sure we're all informed kind of how operations and safety are going. It'll become part of the standard, but your committee, Julie, will see more of this. It's the way it's planned. I said that right?
Correct.
Okay. All right, questions? Now we'll keep moving. Yes.
Hi, Jocelyn Jones-Nolly. Well, thank you very much for your report, Brett. Quick question for you. What are the top reasons for lack of on-time performance?
So the top reason, well, let me answer it this way. The top reason absolutely is not driver performance. This is not a driver performance or operator performance issue. Quite frankly, the top reason are things like construction in a growing city, or routes that need to be adjusted. And so on a quarterly basis, we monitor on-time performance route by route. And if we see routes that continue to underperform, we will look to make modifications. A great example of that, I always use this one, so you might have heard this before, is South Tryon. South Tryon is a very long route, and it runs through a very active area of the city where there's a lot of construction, and both of those things can affect an operator's ability to run the route effectively on time. And so as we look at that, some things like construction, you think about detours or you think about when the construction ends, but other things like length of route, as we think about hitting those 15-minute headways, it may be that we have to adjust the route to break it up into more manageable segments.
Thank you for that.
The only thing I'll say before we leave that is the on-time performance is a major FTA metric for us too. So that is something, Julie, as we go forward, and I know you know that already, it's something we need to make sure we're working with the staff on wherever we can. All right, so next, oh, yes, sir. I didn't see your hand. Chris, I've missed you.
Just a quick question too, and this can happen later too. It doesn't happen today. I know we're working on a whole HR transition plan as well. Do we have numbers on like turnover increases, like after some of these incidents with, I know we have this report from February, there was another incident on a bus recently as well. Do we have any idea of our bus drivers having higher rates of turnover year over year, or rail operators? Can we get a report about that at a later meeting, just what turnover trends are looking like?
Yes.
You operating? You're operating committee, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's something that actually would be great for them to monitor too, so. All right, so we're gonna move on. So next up, we're gonna have a transition report. And I am happy to ask both Carolyn Flowers and Deborah Campbell to come up. You guys know that we took some action on them last meeting, and I don't know, I guess I want to do a brief introduction. They probably don't need it a lot in this room. In addition to Deborah being the former planning director for this city, she also recently was the city manager for the city of Asheville. She was in our prayers because she probably had one of the toughest jobs in America trying to get that city back up and going. Probably the most interesting history fact, though, is I was her first intern back in 1992. I really was her very first intern. And then secondly, we have Carolyn Flowers. Carolyn actually is the former director of CATS. She and I both had an opportunity to go serve with Secretary Fox in Washington, where she started as deputy, I want to say administrator, before she became acting administrator for FTA. So we have two very capable people handling our transition. And yeah, so I'm gonna turn it over to Deborah and Carolyn, and then they're gonna introduce some guests for us. So Deborah.
Okay, we're gonna try to work this. Okay, great. So first and foremost, good evening, and thank you, Mr. Howard, for that introduction. As was stated, my name is Deborah Campbell, and I serve in the role as a Senior Vice President of Leadership Development with a consulting firm called Strategic Government Resources. I have a number of other team members that'll be working on this project with me, but I am definitely your boots on the ground. I want to start by saying thank you for the opportunity to work with you all on this and other initiatives, and I'm sure I can speak on behalf of Carolyn and Erna as well. You heard described that both Carolyn and I, we have roots in this community. So this isn't about us being just consultants. We have history that we want to build on, and hope that we can support you all in helping make this transition successful. I want to also thank city staff, city manager, other city staff, the CATS, MPTA board members. You all have welcomed us with open arms. Anytime we've called on you to have a meeting or whatever, you've been willing to come help us get acclimated. And there is a lot of information that we are going through and trying to understand this initiative, particularly related to its relationship with the PAVAC. The onboarding process has been amazing in terms of badges, and the chair was kind of mad at us because we had badges and he didn't, but we deeply apologize.
The security people laugh at me and say, why can't you get a badge? You do so much.
But we actually have space on this floor in the governor's old wing of this building. It's the number's 231. So if you all have a need for a meeting or want to meet with us, that's where we are located. We've launched coordination efforts and work with the team that you'll hear from EY that you all hired principally to handle the transition management piece, and we're here to support them and many others. We are making, we think, steady progress, but there's a tremendous amount of work yet to be done to meet the July 1st, PAVAC. Okay, I think I got it. So what have we been doing? We've initiated a lot of engagement with some of the major players in the transition process, and literally the rest of these bullets actually should be underneath that major one in terms of major players in the transition process. As I said earlier, we have been meeting with a lot of different individuals and groups and again, just trying to get our arms around this tremendously complicated process that you all have been charged to implement in terms of representing the community's interests. We've attended every one of your board committee meetings, and we are meeting with, as I said earlier, vendors and consultants that's responsible for these transition activities. But most importantly, and I shouldn't say most importantly, I should say in terms of the timeline and meeting a lot of the payback deadlines, is we've met with the attorneys to review the interlocal agreement. And that interlocal agreement is one important document that identifies those terms of how this transition is going to take place. It doesn't specifically speak to the how, but it speaks to the what needs to get done. So hopefully we will have some information coming back to you all very soon. Now, I'm hoping I'm going in the right direction. Did it. So in terms of our next steps before we bring up EY, this is pretty much from Carolyn and our perspective. We've got a really big meeting happening tomorrow, and you'll hear a lot of details from the EY team just shortly. Again, getting our arms around a lot of the moving parts and vendors and city teams and the work that's currently underway. We're going to develop work plans, priorities, and a reporting cadence with the help of EY and bringing that information to the various committees. We're also finalizing a fellows program and a youth employment program. And we will be meeting with committee chairs and board members. And we're going to meet with the community and business and town stakeholders on an as-needed basis. So if you all feel that there's someone that we need to meet with to help explain our roles or whatever, please let us know. The last thing that I would say is you all, and I know it doesn't feel this way, but you all have accomplished a lot. And I know there's a lot to be done, but you all, I cannot imagine coming into this initiative and all the work the foundational work that you all have done had not been done, there would not be a July 1 for this organization and for this community. So I really, really hope that you all pat yourselves on the back. And I know you don't want to rest on your laurels. You want to keep moving. And yes, we should, but you really, really got to understand there's a lot of work that's been accomplished. So thank you all. You've actually made our job a lot easier. So I'll now turn it over to Carolyn Flowers to continue. Let's see. I think this is for.
I don't need this. Thank you. I have no slides. So as Deborah said, as part of the next steps, EY is going to be critical to getting us to July 1. And so the board approved the engagement with EY in the March meeting. And tonight, we have the EY team here with us to provide you with a presentation on the launch of their transition consultancy. So EY brings subject matter expertise in infrastructure, finance, and separation management with experience in setting up new transit agencies, most recently with Austin Transit Partners to support the startup of new agency there in conjunction with the passage of their property tax initiative called Project Connect. And that Project Connect is for the expansion of transit in the Austin, Texas area, which is similar to the process that you're going through here in Charlotte. They also supported the Gateway Development Corporation in the New York, New Jersey area and established a new agency there that is responsible for construction of new tunnels under the Hudson River for the better, modern, and safer connectivity in the Northeast Corridor. They bring private sector advisory expertise, and as an example, they have carved out Champion from Haynes, and they have other major separation projects that they have supported. So I just wanted to emphasize the value that this team is bringing. They have private and public sector practices. They supported me here in Charlotte when I was CEO. They were our financial consultants. I've worked with them on other projects across the nation. So I know that you're getting a great team. They will give their introductions of the team when they come up. And they will give you an update of their first week. They've only been on the job 1 week, and they have actually accomplished a lot in that time period in terms of connecting with all of the major vendors and consultants that are part of this whole transition project team. So I want to just say that I think we have the team that'll get us to a successful implementation of this project, and that they will provide the transition that we need to a new entity that is MPTA. Come up, EY team.
So, committee, as they come up, if it's possible, let's let them get through the presentation. I definitely am going to do the 3-minute thing after this one because I know there's going to be questions. But yeah, let's let them get through the full presentation. Please take notes so we can get through it all the way, please.
Next slide. All right. We are learning already. So thank you for the introduction. We very appreciate it, and we're very happy to be here. I think we are excited to be here. We are very pleased that you selected us as your advisor, and thank you for your time. I'm going to introduce myself. Our whole entire team will talk about different things over the course of this presentation. We are intentionally going to have a Q&A slide that pops up at the end. Whatever questions you guys have, we'll do our best to answer them. So my name is Brandon Markey. I'm a partner in our group. I've been in our group for 14 years, and I focus on corporate carve-outs and new entity setups. So I'll tell you a bit more about my experience later. I think you guys I was a lead partner on Haynes brand, selling Champion. The other North Carolina client I've had here for a while is Ingersoll Rand on a couple of their sell-side engagements. Other ones that you guys have heard of, 3M, AB InBev, Campbell Soup, Cisco, Microsoft, a lot of the most frequent and sophisticated corporate carve-out new entity setups, I've been a part of those. So happy to bring that expertise. We've also have transit expertise, infrastructure expertise, and then local expertise that we will introduce as well. So let me hit this, and then we'll go to further introductions. So today, we have some slides there in the deck that we are going to explain our role in the transition. Really, that role is to lead and advise the separation transit office. I keep saying that, transformation office. We usually call it a SMO, not a TMO, but we are going to help advise functions during this transition. The goal, obviously, is to meet the requirements of the different milestones, payback being the first one. We are going to have an integrated plan. There are many advisors. There are many stakeholders that are with different agencies. So one integrated plan will help us going in the right direction, and it'll help with board committee updates. And then the number one goal, obviously, is no disruption. We don't want the employees to have disruption. We don't want riders to have disruption. So those are kind of the guiding principles. So That is all why we anchor really like to this July 1 critical path. We'll explain how we're going to do that. How we're launching, and you gave a preview of our kickoff workshop tomorrow. We've already had some conversations with other advisors just to sync on where they are versus payback requirements and just their responsibilities. But we'll give a little bit more detail on how we're launching. And then what to expect going forward. And that includes just regular reporting cadence and information coming up to the board and other committees. So I've learned now. Next slide. Okay. So Tom, do you want to introduce yourself?
Why don't you start off?
Okay, yeah, well, I said my name, other team members that they'll talk, Robert, Holly, Sana, they all have great separation, carve-out experience and transaction management experience. They'll come up and tell you a little bit more about their background as well. Chris is you got Chris? Okay.
Yeah, okay. Hey, hello, folks, and thank you, Board Chair. We're really looking forward to this experience. My name is Tom Rusakis. I lead Ernst & Young's infrastructure advisory practice, as well as all the transit-related work we do around the country. We work with transit agencies all over the country. So it's really the work I do on a day-to-day basis. We were very intentional, as Carolyn mentioned. It's great to be working again for Carolyn. We were the longtime advisor to CATS on your previous capital program. But we are very intentional around building a team that brings in this corporate transition management experience alongside experience in local government, transit, state government, as well as federal. And so joining me from my team is Vishal Jashipur, a very integrated team who brings this transit experience, but also used to work at USDOT, so understanding USDOT and the federal processes as well. We're also joined today, not on this page, but our leader of our North Carolina government business here, Chris Estes, who's former Secretary of Information Technology for the state of North Carolina. We also have a member of our team who joined us earlier this year. He's not with us today, but Joey Hopkins, who's the recent former Secretary of Transportation for the state of North Carolina as well. So we are very much focused on being able to add value at the local level, the transit level, the state level, as well as the federal level as well. So we're really looking forward to bringing all these competencies together in order to advance this project.
Next slide as well, please. And hi, everyone. I'm Hallie Morse. Thank you, Tom and Brandon, for kicking us off and for that introduction. Excited to be here with you all. I bring a lot of sell and separate experience as well, carve out, new entity stand up. And, the point is that you all are here. A lot of you are leaning in because you really care about the success of this transition. And sitting over there, I've heard that loud and clear, that it is really important to you that you have a smooth and successful transition. And we're here because we've done this hundreds, if not thousands of times, collectively as a team and powered by EY. So we bring a lot of methodology, a lot of approach that we're going to bring, guiding principles to really make sure that the team is set up for success. So how we're launching, right? So you've heard about this kickoff that we've got tomorrow. This is our first opportunity to bring all of the teams together collectively. It's been such a pleasure to get to meet all of the various advisors and the work stream leads who've been very gracious with their time. And we know that they all have day jobs and that this is additional. And so we appreciate the work that people are putting into this. But our role is really in the coordination of all of that and making sure that this happens timely, that we are anchoring to the PAVE Act, which you'll hear about how we are approaching this, through the different phases. But we want to make sure that we honor that and the functional teams that are really set up for success. So having the working teams that are really, boots on the ground, rolling their sleeves up and making sure that this happens timely. So you see here the approach that we're taking with these gates, right? You're familiar with the dates, but just, this is tomorrow as well, how we're going to anchor the teams. It's really around the statutory readiness on July 1, the governance that's set up having the frameworks in place and the interlocal agreements that are going to at that time be enacted. Gate 2 on January 1, this is effectively our HR go live, so our employee transition, a lot of work that is going to go into this and standing up of the systems, the people that will take us to July 1, at which point this will be the start of the first year of MPTA as a standalone entity. Let's go to the next slide. Great. So as I said, we're all anchored to the PAVE Act, and I'm going to hand it to Vishal to go through a little bit more detail on that.
Thank you, Hallie. Really great to be here. My name is Vishal Joshipura. I work with the team, as you heard. I do a lot of transportation and transit work across the country. I'm based in Atlanta, so I do a lot of work in the Southeast, especially. I led our work for the Hudson Tunnel project for the Gateway Development Commission. It's a $16 billion tunnel. We started working with them when there were 3 people in GDC tasked with developing and delivering a $16 billion project. And we onboarded the CEO, we onboarded the COO, we onboarded the CFO, and then we helped them hire every staff in their finance team, and several other people briefed them as well. By the time our contract ended, they had $16 billion in committed financing, most of it from the federal government, and a contracting part laid out in the first 2 or 3 contracts already awarded. So it's a privilege for us to be part of something as ambitious and mission-focused as this. This is what we live and breathe on a day-to-day basis. As Tom was saying, we are doing it in Austin now as well. And so really looking forward to working with you and everybody here on this really exciting mandate. So I'm here to talk about things which, of all the slides, you already know, which is good or bad for me. But to anchor the work that we are doing in primarily the statutory requirements, but the philosophy behind it. Right? The PAVE Act was designed with a mission in mind, to do things maybe slightly differently, to challenge, to think broader, and then bring maybe a different kind of discipline in the whole project and program development process. So yes, there is a sales tax, but then it is, there is investment discipline between like transit and transportation. There is accountability and oversight built into the legislation. But this, as you all know better than us, you are living through this through the last few months, takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, which was also kind of anticipated under the legislation. So to do this, right, the Act requires a lot of upfront work, whether it's in terms of feasibility or financial feasibility or just general feasibility, governance, so on and so forth. And then the Act basically did this initial assessment, split it in 2 phases. 6.2 was the stuff which is already done. 6.2 had these 5 studies which you got by the 1st of January. The intention of that was to say, all right, should we proceed under what structure? Ask some fundamental structures or questions around the feasibility and the path forward on some big ticket items like assets, liabilities, systems, HR, so on and so forth. And then now we are in the second phase of this exercise, which is, all right, now that we have assessed it and then figured out that, yes, there is a path forward, how do we implement it? How do we govern it? And how do we operate it successfully? And to do that, the Act splits the work in 11 different buckets, of which, bucket 11, Silver Line, which is like a priority, it's like this own separate thing. But the first to 10, right, all of these kind of are intertwined to some extent. Laws affect financial policies. IT affects HR. HR affects asset acquisition, something like this. So these are not separate buckets. And that's how we are looking at this as well. There is a lot of interdependency between all of these. And then the way we have designed our transition plan and the approach, as you will hear from Robert and others in the next few slides, is to address this interplay, but to also have accountability and a single point of contact and responsibility for all of these disparate work streams. So I'll hand it over to Rob to talk about how we are planning to do it.
Next slide. Hi, everyone. It's great to meet you. My name is Robert Beal. I'm a senior director here in Charlotte. I have Sell and Separate experience, a couple local clients that you all might recognize and why it's relevant to this project. I worked on Krispy Kreme's IPO. It was a very cross-functional role with a lot of different advisors, a heavy reporting element. Also helped on their separation of Insomnia cookies. And then another brand people might recognize is Family Dollar. I was involved with Dollar Tree when they, not when they bought them, but when they sold Family Dollar. I helped scope all of the services and price them out, which will be relevant for this deal as we look to scope and provide services from the city to MPTA on January 1st. So just want to, along with the team to my right, we all have the right experience for this, and we're really, it's great to be here in front of you. So connecting what Vishal was just talking about to this slide, we understand there's 11 studies in 6.4. The word on here you see from governance, that's on the next page. We've taken a stab at putting all of the different functions on the page. And this is where each one of them we've mapped them to, along with buy-in from the CATS leadership team, Carolyn and Deborah. Right now, this is where they'll go. What you don't see is we understand a lot of this stuff is gonna have to work through committees. So just like earlier in the week, how the financial policies went through the Finance and Audit Committee, we have complete understanding that a lot of these things will need to go through the various committees. So we'll be doing the same exercise to map to the appropriate committees. And then with the expectation, once they go to committees, they'll go to the executive committee for final approval on a number of these things. So again, we're playing a coordination and oversight along with Deborah and Carolyn, but these are the 11 studies and where they're going to be mapping to from our governance. So let me jump to the next slide. This is how we're structuring ourselves across the entire program. So just to orient you to the page, you'll have up in the top right corner, you've got the MPTA, CATS, City of Charlotte, and then advisors. At the top of the page, we just want to recognize all the different players involved here. So this is a page that level sets and shows that. So in the ESC, you've got MPTA representation, David, along with Frank. From the city side, you have Marcus and Brent. Where we sit, along with Deborah and Carolyn, from that cross-functional coordination role, is in the separation management office. The ESC is going to provide a lot of strategic direction and input. It's our responsibility to bubble up the most important items to them and sit over top of the functional teams and coordinate those cross-functional dependencies you see on the bottom left side of the screen, these 6 areas. The functional teams, there are various leaders in the room with us as well as others that are going to be helping us coordinate all of this work. And there's a very structured cadence for meetings. We're not going to be showing it to you today, but assure you that there is a regimented schedule on a weekly basis to make sure we're delivering reports up to the board and the various committees to ensure confidence that we're headed towards the right milestones on time. So this is kind of how we're structuring ourselves. There might be some changes in the background on the edges. We want to make sure we bring forward like the various committees and what each one is going to be reporting to. But this is how we're planning to structure ourselves. So I'll hand it off to Tom to go through some of the rules of the road.
Next slide, please. Yeah, just real quickly, as we mentioned, we're kicking off tomorrow. We actually haven't quite kicked off yet, but we want to make sure we're as prepared as possible. And what's really important is understanding the rules of the road, if you will, with the advisor team. So we'll be meeting with all the other advisors, we're meeting with CAT staff, everyone involved in this effort to make sure we understand what everyone's role is during this process and make sure that this goes off as smoothly as possible. And a big part of that is making sure the team understands that ultimately the MPTA is the one making the final decisions here. It is not the responsibility of this working group to be talking with external stakeholders, right? Make sure there's good control of information and coordination, right? What we're very much focused on is the coordination amongst all the various parties who are going to make this transition a reality. Leverage the great work that's been done to date, engaging with federal and state partners, and making sure we're focused on the PAVE Act requirements. alongside that, making sure that, that we're working through official channels and not unofficial challenges. Decisions aren't being made on the side, right? Very clear governance structures that we roll up through, working with Carolyn and Deborah up to the board for clear decisions, and making sure there's a good velocity to decision-making, and we create a structure for all these parties to come together and reach a point where they can allow the MPTA board and the committees to be informed and make decisions. So these are the sort of the rules the road we'll be discussing with all these advisors tomorrow. Just make sure we're all on the same page and this goes off as smoothly as possible. So thank you.
Moving on to our next slide. Hi, everyone. I'm Sanam McClendon. I'm a business consultant at EY, specializing in large-scale transformations and overall program execution. I'm also a proud Charlottean, so happy to be in a room with other Charlotteans as well. Taking a look at this slide. Well, we're 3 and we're strong. Taking a look at our key elements here, thinking about the purpose of this slide, it's overall to translate the steps and the discussions that's happened already with this team into some clear executable steps. So looking at these 11 key elements, they're overall designed into almost 3 buckets that you can think of. One, design, which is our setup and overall SMO setup and governance. Planning, which is going to be our workshops, which we will be kicking off tomorrow, and we'll talk more about that later in the presentation, as well as program readiness, which is going to be our transition plans, as well as gating risks that we will identify through the program. At the top of this slide here, you can see some timeline accelerators. Looking at the July 1 gating period, we want to ensure that we are locked in on day 1 definitions and decision calendars early. We're aligned on any interlocal or TSA agreements, as well as ensuring that we have owners for all data related to contracts, employees, and approvals. Some risks that might cause delay, but that's what we're here for, are any unclear decision rights, late decisions, or inconsistent messaging to stakeholders and other public groups. As a whole, the SMO is here to help identify and mitigate any risks, and we'll work together to complete these steps and meet our July 1 gate. Thanks. Next slide.
All right. Thanks, Sanam. So again, project governance, I went over that earlier. I did, but one thing I failed to mention is you see the 9 functional teams there on the bottom. So we are in the process of finalizing that this week. The kickoff is happening tomorrow. We're really excited about it. We've met with all the right stakeholders. We feel really good about progressing towards the July 1st deadline. We're gonna have clear next steps coming out of that, and we'll look to establish what we're going to call the separation management office cadence the following week, as a number of those same advisors are going to be on site here in Charlotte. A major output of the kickoff will be charters. So we've already pre-populated a lot of those and met with the advisors to confirm scope and ownership and align on those payback requirements. Starting to surface some of those critical decisions and cross-functional dependencies. And that'll be, I've heard the word critical, or the term critical path a couple times tonight. So once we have all of the outputs from that workshop, we'll try to get a integrated schedule. So there's transparency and visibility across the entire program from all the various work streams.
Thank you so much. All right, so you've heard about the kickoff tomorrow, and you may be wondering, now that we have our governance team in place, we've got all the people, are we going to begin executing starting tomorrow, April 17th? And the answer is, it's a working launch. So this is our very first working session. that we're bringing together the cross-functional parties, having everyone in the room together so that we can begin to make some of these key critical decisions that are going to help progress us forward and get us to our key milestone of July 1. It will be a very productive first session, but it is still our first session. So this is intended to be the working group, the work stream leads that have been identified. We will be kicked off by David, and I think that's probably all we're expecting as far as from the board, and it will be a really great opportunity for us to really establish our cadence, get everyone aligned, rowing in the right direction, and as Robert mentioned, a key output of that will be our functional charters. There are a number of functional items specific to each of the key workstream areas that collectively are going to help us identify a lot of the interdependencies across the functions and help us in identifying the sequencing, which is going to be unique to this transition. Moving on to the next slide. So we just want to give you visibility into what we're going to be covering in tomorrow's session, a 3-hour kickoff. That will, again, be introductions of the team. We'll cover some of our methodology, some of the slides that you've seen today, just as an introduction, get everyone really on the same page, as well as what they can all expect going forward, our cadence, some of the key deliverables, like the operating model that is going to help us understand what needs to change across all of those gates where we're, current state today as CATS, how things are going to operate on July 1, what changes need to be made, and then the charter. So we're going to have dedicated breakout sessions where the teams can really align on what that is, have a defined scope, some boundaries, identifying any gaps where there's coverage that needs to be thought about, and any questions, and again, key interdependencies. On to the next slide. And this is really on the charters, which you've heard a lot about already, so I won't belabor it, but this is just to give you an idea of the key things that basically are included in our charter. But after this first week, we will have a formalized team that is set up, a cadence that will be established, and through this, we'll be, raising items to the board where there's risks that need to be elevated, questions, decisions that need to be made that we're not able to resolve at a functional level, that we look forward to bringing into this room and being a part of the conversations going forward. And with that, I will hand it to Brandon to take us home before a Q&A.
Next slide. Okay, if I were in your seat, this is a slide I'd want to see. How are we going to continue to update the board and various committees? Obviously, the top of mind is progress against PAVACs, decisions that require board action or awareness, information that requires awareness, risk and dependencies that could impact schedule, compliance, public confidence. Had a good conversation with David today. No surprises will be a theme. It is on a lot of our deals, our carve-outs, our transactions. Focusing on interlocal agreement development, that is going to be key to being the connective tissue between different phases on this project. And at the same time, a transition remains aligned with the approved direction of the board and the committees and leadership. How they'll be updated, concise, decision-oriented updates, that will be the focus. We will try to escalate decisions very quickly. We will try to be as clear as possible as what is for board awareness and committee awareness versus board approval. And then at the same time, though, we understand that there's a monthly cadence already set up through the end of the year. Time-sensitive additional briefings, that's something that just comes par for the course of something that's complex and going fast as a transition. We understand, and we have a lot of our transportation experts have made sure that our approach here is not typical to a big corporate deal. Different here is their statutory requirements, and they're not discretionary milestones, they're statutory requirements. We need to anchor to those, and that's what you heard our theme of our project is already doing. Several outcomes. There are different external approvals or interlocal agreements that need to be set up, and outcomes depend on those. So we are going to consider that as we go forward. And this does have governance and people-related long-lasting impacts, so we are going to focus on that as well. And then we understand visibility and timing. It's critical to avoid late surprises. At the bottom of this, you'll see what we kind of have a hypothesis as to what is a time appropriate update for you guys at some of the different scheduled meetings that you have. Right here on the far left, you can see April. We wanted to inform you as to the transition governance and cadence and what to expect going forward, how we framed our team and really developed our project and interaction model with other advisors, which will end up in a critical path type of dashboard for everybody's consumption, and then just overall of our coordinated approach, which is the governance. So that's what we thought was time appropriate for this update. You'll see hypothesis for May, June, and July. As things are hot topics, we might modify that as we learn more. We're talking to other third-party advisors, but this is what we think is time-based and appropriate, and going all the way to the July 1, where it's hopefully confirmation of and acceptance of all the payback requirements. So really excited to work with you and keep you as formed through this governance process as possible. And that concludes our presentation for today. I guess next slide, and we can open it up for questions.
One or two remarks before I open it up. I want to go back and thank the management consultant working group that Christy led, as well as the members. We were just sitting there talking. It was actually it's not even a month ago, March the 20th, that you guys met and made a recommendation to actually have them up. I actually signed the contract today. So to have them up and ready, and all of this work has been done, and we got the incredible leadership of Carolyn and Deborah. You guys should, to Deborah's point, feel good about where we are. If you just looked at everything he just said, they're ready to help us get this going. So not only do I think we got the right team, but we got the right consultants as well. So feel good about that. So again, thank you, Christy. Thank you, committee, for getting us this far. In less than a month, we're already ready to jump headlong into this. So I am going to enforce the 3 minutes. You saw I kept myself under 3 minutes. So we're going to do, thank you. So we're going to, the way we'll do this is get all of your questions out, and then we'll respond, not question, answer, because that could take all night. So who wants to go first? I got Christy now, so I'm ready. Nobody? All right, I'm gonna keep going. You better hurry up. Nobody? Everybody feel, oh, of course.
Everybody else.
Had to be sure.
Anthony, I told him about you today.
They slept through your presentation, that's why I don't have questions.
It helps. It helps when you're last. It helps when you're last.
I'm teasing. 1 minute. I'm burning
You
my
just got demoted to 2 minutes, mister.
So, first question. First of all, thank you for your work so far in planning and preparation here. Clearly, you all have done a great deal of work to be prepared to undertake this effort. So I appreciate that, and I'm very pleased with what I see. First question I have is, how much of this work that they're going to be doing will be recorded and available to the public? And this is probably a question for us.
I think we should make sure that's part of what we're doing. We'll come back with recommendations on that.
All right, so I just want to make sure that we cover that. And then my next question is about the decision-making process. One of the things that you outlined here is the board decisions or board actions versus board awareness. I'm very concerned about that distinction. And how do we decide what items require board decision versus reporting? So I want us to give some thought around that and make sure that the board is the one that makes that decision. And I'm particularly interested in points of decisions around, one, interpretations of the act, right, where we get to a point where there's something in the act that there requires some interpretation of. I'd like to make sure that the board members are included in that process. And then secondly, on position decisions. So part of our studies requires the board to make forward-looking decisions. So there's a difference between tasks that have to be completed and studies that have to be provided. And in those studies, we have to provide some forward-looking references. And I want to make sure that the decisions around those forward-looking references are coming from the board, the full board. Then the very last thing I had was You all have talked about reporting, and you've got a very good chart here on reporting. So I'm going to be curious to see the format that we will have for the discrete tasks that have to be completed and where we are on completion of those tasks in relation to the timeline. So, and it's clear to me that you all are going to be very capable of providing us some sort of matrix that helps us get through those discrete items. I like the fact that you bundled them into 11 topics, but there are some fundamental breakdowns within those areas that we have to be completed on a scheduled timeframe. So I'm looking forward to seeing that matrix. Thank you. How many minutes I have left?
20 seconds.
Thank you very much.
So responses real quick. I think on the interpretation of the payback, I think that'll be done in concentration. That'll be done with our law partners for sure. So I think you want to just make sure if we start doing things and interpret it, it comes back here and you explain why we did it now. All right, so noted. Decisions. So when there's a decision for the board, Carolyn and Deborah, we just need to make sure that there's a path back here so that it goes back here. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. On the plans, specifically, we talked earlier, you're talking about the HR plan and the IT plan and anything else that's a plan, that to make sure that we're bringing plans back here to make sure that it gets the full support of the board. And then on tasks, we spoke earlier, and that's a dashboard and metrics. So they understand that's something we'd like to see. All right?
Good.
Can we make
questions?
one,
Yes, ma'am.
just, Anthony asked about board awareness and board decision. There will be a reporting process. We're going to be meeting with EY on a weekly basis. And so we'll be reporting through the committee structure on the status and the current state. And then we will also be bringing forth through the committees any action that needs to be taken so that it comes through the formal process.
Great. Thank you.
Anybody else?
The last question was about public access and recordings. I don't know what has to be done in order for us to
Let's just make sure we take that into consideration.
make sure that that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's intended not to. It's just the first day, so if you guys.
I understand. I'm just,
Yeah.
again, I want to make sure we're on the record that this entire process is a public process.
Correct.
There's not the skunk works here. This is not a behind the scenes thing, so
You're
it's
next.
a technical term.
So, so if he's done, Christy is the next hand, because I see nobody else's hand. So Christy?
Good evening, Christy Long, Board Secretary. I'd like to just amplify something that Trustee Lindsay just said. Let's be intentional tomorrow during the kickoff meeting when you talk about reporting on how you're going to report back to the board. I think that really will set the tone and set expectations very early in the process.
I meant to tell y'all, that 10 minutes they gave me, they made it clear that I have to leave after that, because they're determined to keep us out of that and make this as much staff so that they can bring us stuff that they all talk about. So that day of us being in startup mode where we were doing the work, it's officially over. So that makes me happy. It makes me happy than you, Wyatt, because that means that we're moving very much into becoming the policymakers that we were selected to be. As a matter of fact, I did not think probably one of the most important groups that helped us, and that is staff. If you really think about how fast we've done all of this procurement, there is no way it could have happened. So thank you all. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I might just add one for the E&Y team. So, really appreciate the presentation. Good to meet you all. Looking forward to everything we're going to do together. Just focusing on the July 1 deadline and, considering the fact that a lot of this is unprecedented, based on your public and private experiences previously, how ambitious does it feel to get all of this done in 2 months and some change?
Be honest. They want you to be honest here.
I mean, it would have been really nice to be in the board 2 months ago. How about that? But, I think we're going to be worked through tomorrow. Really, part of the exercise as well is prioritizing what needs to get done by July 1st, what needs to get done by January 1st, and then the following July 1st. You really think about their different phases. And so the PAVE Act requirements, working with council to make sure we're actually meeting the legal requirements of the PAVE Act and trying to get as much as possible done during that short period of time, and being realistic around what gets done by July 1st, what's done by January 1st, and so on and so forth. So, the good thing is, as the chair mentioned, CATS and city staff have done a tremendous amount of work to date, as well as with the advisors. So a lot of that is we've been trying to get up to speed on all the work they've been doing, and we feel pretty good that you'll be in a good position by July 1st to meet those requirements.
2 months ago is the real answer for all of us on everything. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Introduce yourselves.
Oh, Wyatt Dixon. Thank you very much. As we're a body of 27 volunteers, and one of the things that I'd love to get your thoughts on is advising us on how we can be assets in this process, and to help you facilitate and move through this process so that we are successful when July 1 rolls around, and just freedom to express whatever thoughts. Because we could probably get wrapped up around the axle on things from time to time, and so I know that could be a challenge.
Yeah, please.
Well, I think really important is going to be working with Carolyn and Deborah to really think about that board cadence and making sure there's a clear line of communication between the board and the transition team, right? And letting that group and that executive steering committee really sort of absorb all that information and help facilitate decisions. We're taking that all into account. But that's a topic of discussion we're going to add tomorrow as well, and we'll be very mindful of that.
Yeah, and just to add one thing, I think in the meetings we've had, people have been pretty open and transparent about what their concerns about, what they think is going to be a high hurdle in this. As we board and committee reporting, it was best when it goes two ways, right? So we're providing updates and going up, but then if there's something, everybody has a very diverse experience base here, right? And people are knowledgeable about different things, and that includes the city employees, future MPTA workers. If there's something that you think we need to get in front of and we need to move a decision up, let us know. And so that kind of helps not have rushed emergencies later. So I would use that two-way kind of mechanism of communication. So far in the meetings we've had, people have been transparent about what their concerns are, which actually has helped us modify what our initial plan assumptions are. So continuing that behavior does help.
All right, so we'll move on. I will give you one other little piece of news, and that is the city manager is working with us. Deborah shared with you that they have office space to transition folk right around the corner in the old governor space, but they're working on giving us even more space over in the old city hall. The goal there is to have space that EY can actually land here in this area, so they're not going back and forth, so we can actually make sure people have access to each other. So hopefully that'll be another big asset. Again, the city has been over the top helpful trying to make sure all this goes well. So with that, I'm going to thank the EY team for coming out, and thank you all.
Mr. Chair.
Forward to you doing all of the work. Yes, sir.
One other thing, could we, the slide deck was really good, but it's kind of hard to read in here.
We get actually
electronic.
I agree with you, Ashley. I was going to ask, Ashley, your presentation and theirs, if we can get it full size, emailed it to us.
I'll be happy to do that.
Because it's hard to read on here. Okay. Yeah, please. I was going to ask the same thing. All right, with that, the next thing up is my report, and I will make this quick. So you guys actually see in your packet, I think they have the dates. Do they have these dates? They don't have these dates. So let me share with you a few things that are coming up, just so you know. The transportation bond community conversation. It's a conversation between both Mark, Chairman Jarrell, and I on Monday. You actually have a little flyer out. As I shared with you at the retreat, I've actually been saying no to a lot of sessions. I'm sure you guys have probably said no to a few as well while we were getting ourselves together. It's probably time for us to start talking. So the first conversation is going to be this one on Monday night. This has been organized by a young lady by the name of Colette Forrest, who has done a great job of promoting it. I was on BTV with her yesterday at noon. She actually got us on Flashpoint, so that'll be coming on Sunday. And, you know, if you want to see what I'm saying, you don't like what I'm saying, call me after you watch it, all right? So the next thing is Operations Committee. OSC is going to meet next Wednesday. Executive Committee has a meeting on the same day, right after theirs. Finance and Audit Committee is meeting on Tuesday, May the 5th, 1 o'clock. Planning, Capital, and Project Delivery Committee is meeting on Wednesday, May the 13th. The next MPTA meeting is actually now April the 28th. And then our regular monthly meeting will be next month on May the 13th. And just if you're ever interested, I actually attended part of one of PTEC's meetings. Their meeting is Thursday, May the 14th, at 4 p.m. So just FYI on a few meetings. You guys have started getting this weekly communication. Hopefully it's being helpful. I want to thank Catherine and Donata for helping us get that up and going. It's been a desire of mine for months to start talking and telling you what we're doing so that you're not surprised about stuff. So please take the time to review those. I'm trying to make sure it's just highlights and we're not giving you a lot, but I want you to know what's going on, including the fact that we met with the MTC leadership on what we call the handoff meeting, just so that we start to talk through what that looks like as we take over a budget process that they've been involved with now for a really long time. Also, want to thank the new co-directors and team, including, I didn't introduce Erna over there, Erna Jenkins-Jones. Perkins-Jones, I know I was going to get that wrong. Perkins-Jones, who actually has come on kind of to help us with a lot of administrative and transition. She's doing everything Deborah and Carolyn need her to do. That's what I'm saying. So thank you for doing that. I want to make sure that you guys know, because it's come up a few times, and Anthony, I'm going to say it, but promise me you're not going to talk a lot, and that's about the alternates. I am going to figure out how to meet with the towns who have alternates so we can make sure that we're utilizing them in a uniform way. So the staff's helping me put together a meeting with the towns that actually, the 4 towns that gave us alternates, just so we can talk through what that looks like, because I want to be fair. I also want you to know that the meetings I've been telling you that we've been having with the Department of Revenue have been going well. So well now that I think we're kind of done with kind of these big formal meetings, and now the treasurer will take those on in that relationship to make sure that we continue to coordinate with them on when the money starts to come through. Deborah talked to you about the big interlocal agreement that Robertson Bradshaw is helping us deal with the city, so I won't talk about that. And then I'll let you know that Christy, Frank, and I went to the APTA conference in D.C. this past weekend, and part of that was a great opportunity to actually go to the Hill and start to meet with our representatives on the Hill about kind of our needs. We don't really have a legislative agenda. We really talked about the city and the counties, but we did tell them we're going to need their help with FTA and the full funding grant agreements that will be submitted in the future. They worked the heck out of us, because we went, who told me we walked 5 miles Tuesday? Because we went from one side of the Capitol to the other side of the Capitol, back to the other side of the Capitol, back 5 miles in one day just around the Capitol. But we met with representatives from Representative Budd's office, Harris' office, Moore's office. We actually met with Representative Moore, Representative Tillis' office, and then Representative Adams' office. We actually met with her. So we're starting that whole idea of building relationships in Washington as well. So with that is the end of my report, unless you guys have any questions about it.
I have a quick question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Well, how was the reception in terms of the feedback when you said that you're going to need a lot of help?
Tell us what you need.
Okay.
Same thing that happened whenever we went up to City Council. We treated it the exact same way.
Yeah, but you didn't get any feedback in terms of federal funding on the horizon, or?
Well, we kind of went in understanding some of that, but no, nobody actually tried to scare us out of the fact that it was going to be hard.
Okay, good.
No, nobody did. Yes, Ms. Mack.
I just wanted to tell you I have some trepidations about decisions being made and us finding out in this meeting after the fact, There's not any notification or correspondence going out letting us know that things are going to be happening prior to, even to the extent of you guys going to the after meeting. I wasn't aware of it. I'm sure most people in the room were not aware of it, but we did not know. And this is one body. We know that we have a committee, but this is one body. That's the first thing I wanted to bring up. The second thing I wanted to bring up is in terms of the communications that's happening, I'm hoping that too, we would know information prior to, that no decision would be made. Recommendations, of course, to the board, but no decision would be made unless the board was aware of it. For me, it's uncomfortable for someone to come in the room and tell me, we did this and we did that, and we knew nothing about it.
So noted. All right, anybody else? Yes, sir.
Are we just talking about your report now, or are we talking about all other business?
I think it's just my report, because we need to stick to the agenda. Well, we're going to end the meeting, go into closed session,
I have
so.
some other items for other business discussion, so that's why I'm asking.
I'm going to look at Brett. How do we handle that for an agenda? So we don't have, well, we just don't have a item for other, just anything, because normally stuff is on an agenda. But let's see where you guys are going. As long as we understand we're not going to take action on anything tonight, because we have to make sure that's on. So we're still going to do 3 minutes, so we'll start the clock. Yes, sir.
All right. So a couple things. One of them is I share Reverend Mack's concern about actions happening without the full board being informed. But there are some specific things in particular that I want to address. One of them is has to do with the expansion of the transition team and whether or not the full board needs to be involved in that decision. In particular, I'm asking about this MPTA fellows. I don't really know where that came from or anything with respect to how that's supposed to unfold. And I'd certainly have some thoughts about it, that if we're going to have that kind of involvement with students, I would like to have some input into that decision. So that's one. And then the other is, we talked earlier, I know we're going to start working on community engagement, and I know you all are working on a communications plan. I think it's really critical right now, because we're hearing this a great deal, that there's a perception that there were a lot of promises made to the public during the campaign process for passing the referendum, and those promises are we are being expected to fulfill those promises. And personally, I have no idea what those are. So at some point, I'm looking for us to be able to start to define what that really is. And so we have some ability to decide how we respond to that and meet the expectations of the community. And I really want us to be the ones that define that and not have it be defined by someone else outside of this body, which is what I'm concerned is happening. That there are efforts kind of bubbling up all over the place to identify these quote-unquote community promises and what the expectations are around satisfying those. So I want that on our list of things we need to do. And then the other item is on the board directive. So the board had sort of set up some directives. Obviously, this is a key one that EY reported on tonight. But I'd also like to hear some reports back from the executive committee on actions taken by the executive committee and discussions that have happened there. All the other committees reported. I didn't hear any report from executive committee, and I know there were some very key decisions being made there. And then the other thing is, we have some work in progress that we need to also keep updated on. For example, the FTA audit, I know that's going through the committee, but I think the full board should also have a report back on some of those things. Where we are with the grant application for the U.S. Department of Transportation for that 3% design phase on the RED line, those kinds of things. So we also have ongoing other action items beyond just what's happening here that I think we need to be following up on and kind of be reported on during these meetings.
Anthony, that was 3 minutes, so let me go down the list of what you got. So, transition. You asked about a fellows program. That was us just trying to figure out how to get some help. That was actually a conversation started before we even know we could do EY. So it's just following through with it. So you asked about how decisions are being made. So I actually asked the attorneys to pull some of the actions that we've done in the past that will explain why we feel like we could kind of move some things forward without bringing everything back here. So Brad, will you read the motions that kind of explain some of what the board gave us?
Sure, yeah. So there were two prior board actions that did grant the officers and/or the executive committee the authority to directly engage necessary contracts that are related to legal, advisory services, technology needs, and transition services on behalf of the MPTA. And so that board action was carried out on March 6th, and then there was another one on February 11th. And so that related to the $4.3 million and authorizing the officers and/or the executive committee to take action to direct those contracts.
So, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, one of the things that happened when we were talking about EY and Carolyn and Deborah was this idea, well, you know, do you have to really take it to the board? I made the decision to do that because they were so big, but I'm not sure I was thinking that we'd bring every little thing to the board so that we can move transition on. So it was a creative idea of putting some help in this effort to transition is where that came from. I mean, we're being creative. If we could get some graduate help that would be helpful in a way that could move the whole transition forward, it's just an idea. Because it started and we were throwing a lot of things on the wall at the time, EY and Carolyn came through in that time, so I mean, we have a lot of help now, but at the time we didn't. But we started the conversations with some universities trying to figure out if we could get some cheap help to kind of get things going. And the reason why we thought we were okay was because of what he just said. So again, it was kind of a decision from my standpoint to bring the big things here because I didn't want you to not hear about them, even though you guys kind of gave us the right to do it. So, and then on the EC report, I will tell you that a lot of the actions that we are taking are the only things, because we're making recommendations at the executive committee level. We're not making decisions. So, I mean, you know, recommending the budget tonight was a recommendation through us. Recommending, you'll see actions of the executive committee come through in actions normally. The rest of it's just conversation, but I don't mind bringing a report to that. That's not a problem at all. I'll add that next month for sure.
And I respect that. I consider the establishment of this fellows in action. And I recall the motion that was passed, and I appreciate that. And at that very meeting in the workshop, I asked two questions. One, does that mean that contracts that are going to be executed will come back to the full body? And the answer I was given was yes. And I also asked the question of whether or not that approval included interlocal agreements. And the answer I was given was it did not. So I just want to be clear. I personally don't have a problem with the executive committee making decisions. In fact, I think you should be given the latitude to make the decisions that are necessary in order to move us through the transition period and the expenditures of the $4.3 million. When we get beyond those expenditures is when I have a concern. That's where we have not, in my view, provided any kind of approval or authorization of contracts. So I don't know where we are on that, and hopefully we could get a budget update on where we are on the $4.3 million, how much we've spent, and how much we have left to spend, and what we spent it on. So that's another one of those items for me. So
And as far as the fellows program, Mr. and Lindsay, please feel free. We'll contact you and love to get your input.
I will definitely give you some input.
We'll love your input on that. So I thought I saw somebody over here. So
I think Alicia, myself.
yeah, Dan.
Okay.
Yeah, so Jocelyn.
Thank you. I want to lift up what Mr. Lindsay said about communication. I'm I understand that you have an engagement, but I think that we need to understand what is going to be said, and especially since you are making presentations, I saw you on the news, by the way, and making presentations to the media, we should have the talking points in front of us in case folks are come back to us for comments as well. And secondly, one of the things he said was very relevant in our meeting today about what has been promised to the community versus what will be delivered. We had a very interesting conversation with some community activists this afternoon, and where they quoted numbers that were promised, and not knowing if the numbers were accurate, we have to be able to prepare a common response to some of those questions and understand what our talking points are. And I've mentioned it before, so I'd like to see those.
So let's be clear, that as far as this body is concerned, what was promised was in that blue book. And that was what was in the referendum. That's what the referendum came through. There were some other conversations with the Alliance and some other people, and I think some of the conversations we've all heard that they're having were promises that they made to people in the community, not promises they made for us in the community. Now, do we need to be part of those conversations? Absolutely. Robert McCutcheon, say his name for me. Did I say that right? Has reached out. We're starting conversations because they want to know what we're doing. But the only promises that we're responsible for were the ones in that referendum, and I think it was the Blue Book. There are other things about education and small business and some things that people, in the broader community would like to see happening, and I think those meetings are happening. They're not waiting on us. They were not waiting on us to get ourselves together. They started meeting with them ahead of time. As far as what I'm saying, I definitely, well, let me say it another way. If you guys would prefer us not engage when we're invited to public meetings, I'll say no to all of them. I'm not looking for them. So, it was kind of one of those things that we need to start sharing. So, I don't want to be the folks that feel like, I don't want people to feel like we got something to hide because I won't talk as the chair. So, I've been invited, I got invited by the chamber today to their leadership meeting. It's coming. I've been saying no, but if this body votes for me to not do it, give me an excuse not to go. I'll be fine. So, is that do people want me not to talk?
No, I'll follow up with that. I don't think we are asking that you not talk. I just think that we understand the talk track and the points that you're going to make.
Well, I can promise you, I'm not going outside of what you guys have said because I'm not going to get beat up by 26 other people. So, today, for instance, one of the questions on Flashpoint was about whether or not we're going to do a security force. Hey, it's in the plan that we submitted to FTA, but we have a lot of studying and talking to do about it. So I'm not sure where we're going to land on that. One of the questions I got was what we've been up to. What can people expect? I told them we're going to be active over the next 6 months. They should see things like bus shelters and, a lot of the stuff that we talked about with better buses in the budget this year. So it was really broad statements. They just wanted to know what we've been doing for the last 5 months. So, again, if you hear something that you don't think I should have said, just let me know. Yes, ma'am.
I think it's a healthy conversation about communications. I wanted to talk about the information that we're provided. This budget had a lot of information on it, and unless I missed it, I don't think we saw anything until today. And then today we are kind of presenting it to City Council directly. We had minutes to look at it. I think it'd be great if we could have some info ahead in case somebody has any concerns.
Out of fairness, we saw it at the retreat when they set it up to tell us what it was coming. We saw the budget at the retreat when they went through everything, and then we saw it again at a meeting. So we've seen that same budget.
If we could just know that that's the information being sent, that'd be great. So when I saw it today, a couple of things I didn't understand until we discussed it.
I just know they told us what it was, they showed us what it was, they broke down what it was, and then they brought it back to us. So we saw this 4 times. So, just know that, we've seen it a lot of times. That's what I was saying when we were talking, is that this is not the first time we had this conversation about any of this. So, is that it?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. But I hear you on communications. We will keep doing the best we can. That's where this weekly thing is coming from, and there's a whole new effort to try to do more. Is David next?
Did Alicia?
She's going to be last. I know what she wants to do. So, David? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple points that I'd like to make. First of all, I do agree that
communication is always the biggest challenge in any organization, in any family, in anything. So the more that we communicate, the better that's going to be. So I think understanding when schedules, when different events are going to happen, the chalk track, whatever, that should be available. I wanted to specifically speak to the promises made. I chaired the Regional Business Alliance through this, and I co-chaired the campaign. So like some of you that were out there, I was at the tip of the spear, and there was a difference between what we heard and what we listened to in concerns that we gathered versus promises made. And one of the things that I've asked the Alliance to do, and they're working on, and I think we need to formalize this with us, is to document what were the promises made, which you're right, Chair, were not as broad. The aperture is not what people are saying. Yeah. And what were legitimate community issues. So if I may, for example, on an inner city trip, I sat down with some other people and with the school board, and they had concerns that they wanted to be voiced. I was 100% clear that although I was chairing the Alliance and although I was leading the campaign, at that point in time, I think I was named by the legislature. I would be one of 27, and there was zero promise that David Longo can make on behalf of this body. And therefore, any of that information was information gathering. Beyond maybe me committing to, that makes sense, and I will personally make an effort to bring that to the board. So I think we need to be really clear as to what were the promises made. There were all kinds of things. Food insecurity in East and West Charlotte. Legitimate, important issues. Not an MPTA issue, but a legitimate issue. And we need to, and the Alliance does have a document that they've been working through, and I would encourage whatever you think the right committee here is to engage, but we need to list that so that we can be clear, because in 5 years, if we don't have here's the promises made clearly documented, there's going to be all kinds of people, by the way, well-intended, because they might have just heard something, right? They might have heard, they brought the issue up, we said, yes, it's important, we said we should get X, Y, the city to work on that, and then they construed it to be this authority. So I just want to be clear that the promises that were made were, this is what the PAVE Act is. This is the city's plan for roads, which is the blue book I think you're referring to. Here's how the money will be spent. Here's how the authority will be structured. It was all around those things, and it wasn't around some of these very important, sensitive issues for our community. But I just, again, want to make sure that we document that.
And for me, I'll be honest with you, I want to make sure we stay focused on getting ourselves established right first. Yes. So, I mean, that to me, one of the reasons I guess I'm trying to keep the noise out of this room is that we got to do that right. If we don't do that right, the rest of these things don't matter. So any other questions before we move on?
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman, I wanted to raise the issue of trust and the 48% that voted no, and why it's important that this particular body, begins to build trust with that particular group of people. And so as you go out and converse with the community, I want to ensure that all communities have an opportunity to hear from you and also ask questions. My understanding is the East Charlotte does not have a date set in your tenure, your travel?
That's something completely different.
Well, let me finish my point.
Well, I want to point that out because
Okay,
you're right. It was pointed out by one of the unintended public hearing people from that committee that on the east side value engineering meetings, that none of them, Kelly, on the east side.
So,
Can you repeat that?
So, I mean, I just want to put that on the table since that's what we were talking about.
Yep.
I
Thank
don't
you.
want to be vague on that.
we included in the Planning and Capital Project Delivery Committee a summary of the planned engagement for the Silverline Value Engineering Study, and a list of the neighborhood meetings that had been scheduled to date when we distributed the packet last week. Since that date, we have scheduled one meeting with Echo Hills neighborhood on the east side. We're continuing to reach out to neighborhood associations and stakeholder groups to schedule additional meetings. We are committed to make sure we have broad engagement with the affected communities, and so we'll continue to work on that.
So noted on that one.
Thank you for that. And so let me go a step further. For me, communication is key, positive communication, which means it goes both ways. And I've already received your promise that from this day forward that there will be better communication. But communication with the community is more important than anything else. Again, we are trying to build trust across the board. 52% to 48% is no landslide. Everybody in the room can count. And so we really need to be clear about that, because today when I came into the building, I received lots of pushback on a lot of different things that I was not aware of, which is why I'm reiterating the importance of everyone on this board knowing what's going on, who did what, when did it happen. I don't want to hear from someone outside the board that something's going on because we all look crazy when we do not know. And the last point that I want to make is when you have those community events, as Sister Jocelyn said, that we are aware of the talking points, because I believe we all should be in lockstep, that we should be speaking the same language. Whenever we go, people are asking us questions as individuals on this board. Although we are a body, we are individuals, and people who have trust in us as individuals are coming to us, and we have no answers, and that's not a good feeling.
So out of fairness, the last two weekly meetings, things that we sent out, actually had talking points for the board in the back. And I'm not going too far away from those. Now, questions will come from different places that may take me different places. But the questions, those talking points that we want everybody to have are in those communications. And we're going to keep sending out talking points for the board, so so if you're calling out a talk track, you're getting those. So just go make sure you're reading those weekly communications, because we're sharing those with people.
I'm talking about beyond those talking points. We're being asked questions, and we're not aware of the answers. And it's okay, because clearly I'm saying, well, we haven't gotten to that yet, but we will inform you when we are aware of where we're going with that. But I just want to make sure that we are clear about the fact that we need to know what is going on prior to having those kinds of conversations.
But that's why the weekly thing is coming. My goal is to make sure you know. Not doing anything you don't know. I'm going out of my way to make sure y'all know what I'm doing. Yes, ma'am.
Just kind of
Or what we're doing.
change the topic. I would like to make a motion to add new business to our agendas going forward, so that we have a place that we can discuss questions that are not germane to the current agenda.
Second.
Wait a minute. Don't we have that? Where's the agenda?
That's why I raised my points. You said we didn't have a place for it.
Just make that-
It's under new business.
It's other business.
Other business, okay.
Same thing.
Yeah, I don't want to add stuff without us thinking it through.
So it should be a subset after.
That's the chairperson. We're talking about in general.
Yeah, just a new.
So you could add a B item.
But it would be general comment. The whole idea of having new action is what I'm a little concerned about, that we wouldn't advertise new action.
No, it wouldn't be action. New business would be items that we would list if they require action. We could discuss.
The lawyers are trying to help us.
Okay, go ahead.
Help us, lawyers.
Help us, lawyers.
So I think what the request is to add to the agenda a section for the good of the order is, I think, what it would be considered, which would be open discussion without there being a motion pending.
You don't need a
Because-
motion. We'll just add that.
You just add it going
We'll add
forward.
it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay? Anything else? If not, we're going to go into closed session. Oh, yeah. Did you get a second? If you got a second, I needed to withdraw.
I did. I did.
I will add it, but if you guys want to do a motion, do you need a motion?
I can withdraw.
Thank you. All right, so let's move on. So with that, I'm going to give Alicia the last word before we go into closed session.
So I wanted to share a bit of kind of sad news around one of our colleagues, Dana Sujanki, who is also the vice chair of our planning committee. Her mother passed today, so if you can, reach out to her or just keep her in your thoughts and prayers. But I wanted to make sure that you all knew she said we could share, and that's why she's not here and has been a little bit absent. But, you know, she's family, so I want us to all just show her a little bit of love in this time.
All right, keep her in your
Thank you, Chair.
prayers. Thank you. All right, with that, I need somebody to make the following motion. I need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318, period, dot 11A3, 5, and 6. Consult with the board's counsel, establish the board's position on employment contract, consider personnel matters, and to designate Robinson Bradshaw to prepare and maintain minutes and a general account of the closed session. It's been moved by Julie, seconded by Justin. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. Let's take 3 minutes to transition.